If I quoted as him, then I have to find his reference. I guess I could just say, as criminologists have argued, sudden increase in vulnerabilities. I could start off there, and that would work. It's not as well. 1980s, 90s. 1990s, I'm just totally wrong for some reason. Oh, wait a minute. What is wrong? And this is the case where I'm just flat wrong. Oh, two T's. That's what's wrong with it. Yep. Oh, what am I thinking? Of course that would be wrong. Now I see it. Children committing the committing yeah, that's making up a new word right there. That's risky. Civilian war rather than civil war. That was done by civilians rather than military. Okay, as a result of trails and rules. Well, I'm changing the rules for accessing files. Okay. And I'm gonna large distance. Oh, okay. This I think I'll just copy. I don't like having no references again. I think the previous comment should be included. Wait a minute. Okay, during the drug war. Well, that's it. Did yeah, that's totally wrong. Increase. Why must it be a question? Okay, I guess I'll have to reword it. Wait a minute. So we need a greater reason. Okay. This is probably totally wrong. It's just so long. It just looks annoying. But I'll try it again. I'll go by this time. Okay. Let me try something. I'm trying references. That is messing me up badly. I need to not be so concerned with these right now and just write. It's like keeping me from getting into any kind of a groove, any type of a flow of writing. Which is what I need to do right now. Let me finish this one and then let's kind of start writing. Juvenile court system, blah, blah, blah. What was I doing? The premise on which to separate during the past 10 years via state legislatures via leads to the dark side. And yes, they are acting in a manner that is just punishment for its own sake. Ends justifies the means, or there are no means, just react. Do something. Don't care if it's wrong or not, but something. That practically lends itself to wrong. Wrong will always be the one that jumps up and says do this in a case like that. Now, well, I mean not always. An individual may, but not the impulse itself. Anyway, the one category of crime that diverged significantly, murder. Murder by generals remained a relative constant. 84 really underwent. Let me see. I think I'll increase something. Oh, that's right. I don't have to put quotes on it. So let me see. According to this, murder by young stayed at a level rate between 1985 and a decade before. That's kind of weird. Okay. Okay, stayed at a level rate for 10 years until 1985. After this point, there was a sharp increase. Being up to 1993, and it peaked. Where am I at? Yeah, peaked. Okay, peaked, followed by a 48% drop. Juvenile arrest for murder of 98. Those overall rate hides two very different trends. Until 85, the rate of guns, non-gun homicide followed a similar pattern. 5 non-gun homicides continued, with guns tripled. Okay, they point out that according to some, let's say some, so-and-so and others, a name of them, I'm going to have to give his reference. I'm pointing out that someone referenced others. I'll say some. I'll leave it general in that regard. Or should I say criminologists? But that makes it seem like they all say it. No, it doesn't. Let me see. I've argued the large sudden increase. Or it has been argued. That's all I have to say. But then where do I reference it from? Same place. That they, that arguments by, that's the same thing, that it is I really don't like this. They point out that some I can put his name there, it won't hurt anything, but I'm not going to do that for now. Argued this peak was a result of the drug war, not drug war, that's police smart, of various drug wars, or rather it was by drug cartels. Yeah. Who employed is there. Contributing to the delinquency of a minor may not matter too much when you're trying to get them to do something like that. Well, maybe it does. They could tack that on the end so that there's no chance of parole, I guess. Let's see. For their purposes. What do we have to carry them? Self-defense. Well, that's actually good enough. Okay, now. Legislative responses to juvenile crime. I will turn this over a little bit. Let's see. Policy changes resulting. Policy changes. national data. You know, it is to be considered. Of course, there'll be racial disparities. It has to do with empathy. Having grown up seeing the face, more easily thought of as just so and so. It doesn't require conscious effort. In fact, all presumption works better when the only assumer isn't aware of it. It is an honest mistake, not a character flaw. What I mean is, it isn't that the person is knowingly doing anything wrong. They're just honestly doing what they think is right. Even the greatest prejudice is still honest. But people tend to only look to their honesty category to see whether or not they're being prejudiced. All that means is they're being internally consistent. That's all honesty really is. But they can be consistently wrong, so that doesn't prove anything. I'm looking for a comma. Oh well, I'll hear it. Because this voice will make a difference. Instead of saying it's like an it is, it'll say it s. So one little drawback to it. I wish it could read the s. I could change them to the keyboard.
Legislative responses to juvenile crime. Legislative actions in recent years have emphasized measures requiring harsh punishment of juveniles, rather than ones to restrict the availability of guns. Following the Colorado school shootings in April 1999, the Senate added some gun control measures to the juvenile justice bill then under consideration in Congress. However, no such measures were included in the House version of the bill, and the process of reconciling the two versions stalled at the end of the first session of the 106th Congress. In the discussion and heavy lobbying over the gun control measures, less attention was paid to the other proposals contained in the House bill, which would allow youth as young as 13 to be tried as adults in the federal system, expand the range of federal crimes for which a juvenile can be prosecuted as an adult. In the discussion and heavy lobbying over the gun control measures, less attention was paid to the other proposals contained in the House bill, which would allow youth as young as 13 to be tried as adults in the federal system, expand the range of federal crimes for which a juvenile can be prosecuted as an adult, provide for additional mandatory sentences for juveniles in federal court, reduce the restrictions on the housing of juveniles in adult prisons and jails. Policy changes. Policy changes. Policy changes have expanded Policy changes have expanded the range of juveniles who are transferred to adult court. Both state and federal legislative responses to juvenile crime have focused on sending more and younger children to adult criminal court. Since 1992, almost every state has made it easier to try juveniles as adults. Congress provided additional encouragement to this trend in 1998, by making some federal grants contingent on states having policies allowing for the prosecution of those over the age of 14 as adults. State juvenile codes have long permitted the most serious, chronic or older youthful offenders to be transferred to the adult criminal court by a process of judicial waiver following a hearing in front of a judge in juvenile court. However, in recent years there have been significant changes in the processes by which juvenile offenders end up in adult court. Judicial waiver has been broadened to allow juvenile court judges to transfer younger juveniles, and those charged with less serious offences, and to subject more cases to a presumption in favour of waiver, or to mandatory waiver. Prosecutorial discretion has been expanded to give prosecutors more authority to file certain juvenile cases in either juvenile or criminal court as they choose. Statutory exclusion. Increasingly states have passed laws to exclude certain categories of juvenile offenders from juvenile court jurisdiction based either on age or offence. Once an adult, always an adult. Most states have provisions in effect requiring that once a juvenile is prosecuted in criminal court, all subsequent cases involving that juvenile will be under criminal court jurisdiction. 5. Policy change.
Well, that's the same as saying they really have become an adult. And they should give them the other adult rights as well. Funny how it's one way.
Policy changes have resulted in many more children being tried as adults. There are no all-encompassing national data collected, but a report issued by Amnesty International in 1998, based on data from the Department of Justice and from individual states, estimates that as many as 200,000 youth under the age of 18 are prosecuted in criminal court annually. An estimated 180,000 of those in 13 states which have set the upper age of juvenile court jurisdiction at 15 or 16 rather than 18. 2. In 1996, 10,000 cases were waived to criminal court by juvenile court judges. The number of waivers has declined slightly since its high point in 1994 as increased numbers of juveniles are sent directly to adult court. 3. Florida, one of the first states to give prosecutors the right to direct file juvenile cases, continues to be the most aggressive in prosecuting juveniles in criminal court with 6,525 cases, either direct filed or waived cases in 1998. 4. While many of the laws facilitating prosecution in adult court may have been a response to increased homicide and violent crime rates, their impact has been much wider. In 1996, more than half the cases waived to criminal court were non-violent drug or property offences. 43% of cases waived were person offences, 37% property offences, 14% drug, 6% public order. 5. Racial disparities in juvenile transfers. A disproportionate number of minority children are prosecuted as adults. Latest statistics from the Department of Justice 6 show that 67% of juvenile defendants in adult court are black. 77% of juveniles sent to adult prison are minorities, 60% black, 15% Hispanic, 1% American Indian, 1% Asian.
Well, that's no surprise. No one has to consciously think to do a thing for it to happen. It doesn't require conscious intent. In fact, the reason for that is very likely that people decide to try them as children instead. It's just that they're more likely to do that with people that seem to them less incorrigible. And they're far more likely to place that stamp on someone they're used to thinking of as a child. Or rather, on someone they're used to thinking of. Doesn't require intent at all. It just happens. I need to not be so distracted by doing this, though. This is like its own subject. Though this does say it, I mean, I almost cut and paste this for the paragraph, though of course I can't. Let's see, this is directly speaking the line that I need to do, but I need to speak it. How shall I do this? Let me try to say things that don't require so much of a reference. Okay, first, what am I supposed to be saying? Describe the history and status of the issue, provide an overview of the problems that need to be addressed. Well, even preaching this. Should be in oops in accused of crimes and not convicted when a decision to try them as adults is made. They are faced with the full force of the adult penal system without ever having learned about it in school. I'll leave that there, although I think it may be an error. For now, it's a bit like giving the final exam. Let's see. No, I won't. In this case, we are treating a thing to be considered is the I don't think I want to even bother with that. That's not what I'm talking about. Let me see here. I don't want to be distracted. It's like a subject in and of itself. Continental subject. I'm only trying to build one continent here. Okay, they are faced with the full force of the adult penal system without ever having learned about it in school. There are not only more errors, but some automatically, or rather, cases are automatic to the system. Oops. And review. That's wrong. Waivers. Really? And mandatorily. But in some cases, that's clearly